Relax the pressure down. And try to stay like that. And just try to stay like that. Okay? This is where your center of gravity should be. When it's up here, we're top heavy. I'm falling all over up here. When somebody hits a patch of ice or something slippery, off instinct, they do this. They're lowering that center of gravity so that they can deal with gravity. Once the threat is over, for whatever stress takes over, and then they put it back up here again. But in Tai Chi, what we want is to keep it down there. So that as I'm walking and dealing with gravity, the pressure doesn't come up. It's not affecting my health. It's not affecting my balance. Okay. As I'm turning, keeping the pressure down there so that it's not affecting my health, affecting my balance. A lot of times, somebody would say like, hey Mike, and you twist, hey, what's going on? See, it all comes up, all that stress. Oh, I pinched something in my neck, pulled something in my back. Keeping that pressure down there, you turn, you keep your balance, you keep your stability, and then it's very easy to stay balanced. Okay? Twisting and wrenching, it's just going to cause the body to be imbalanced. Okay, so we want to find that center of gravity in our bellies. Anywhere below the navel is fine. Typically we go from like 2 fingers to 5 fingers, so just try to get that big dinner down here somewhere, the proverbial big dinner. Keep it down there. Keep it down there. Down here. The next thing we want to do, contending with gravity, is how to transfer it from one leg to the next. Okay, and we're going to start like this. Now before we do that, we're going to do a very simple exercise warm-up. So if you could stand, or if you need to sit, that's fine too. All right, and very simply, and many of you are familiar with this, I'm going to lift up my ribs, drop down my hips, feel my torso get as long as it can. So I'm lifting up this part, dropping down this part, side of the ribs, and turn the waist like a wheel. Now try to get a sense as you're turning, like a ballerina or a top. Where's that center? And this is starting to get into the turning aspect of turning with balance. You want to turn on that center. You want to turn on that center. Okay. Good. We're going to relax the arms. We're going to roll the feet. We're going to roll from the heel to the ball of the foot, ball to the heel. And no pressure on the toes. So something about the toes is you want balance. The more blood and the more plump the toes, the more balance. So it's like you just want to keep squishing the blood in the toes. Squish the blood in the toes. Squish the blood in the toes. If I go to the toes, it's going to take the blood out, so don't want to go too far. And good. Okay. Open the hands and circle the wrists and relax and try to feel where's the center of your wrist. Where's the center of your being? Alright, and then the other way, where's your center? Center of the wrist. Good. Okay, next the elbows. Center of the elbows, if you bend your elbow, you can kind of feel there's a tendon there, and you can kind of figure out like where the center of the elbow is, right, where those tendons are, so that when you circle, circling, relaxing, the center of the elbows. Not pushing the outside, right in the center. Let's relax to the center. Other direction. Now, Tai Chi, you have to relax because you can't push yourself to your center. The more you push, the more imbalanced you get. It's all about relaxing, letting go, and resting into the center. Okay, shoulders. It's actually going to be the center of the armpit. Another place you can massage, it's the second largest cluster of lymph nodes in the body. Again, depending on how comfortable you are, your lymphatic system, your immune system is largely dependent on this cluster of lymph nodes in the groin, this cluster of lymph nodes in the armpit, and this cluster of lymph nodes in the back of the knee. So this can be another place to rub. Okay, what I'm going to do is open the hands nice and big, and circle. And I'm getting a sense for the center of the armpit. So if I'm shrugging up, I'm going to lose that. So I want to make sure That I keep the shoulders low and I'm moving from the center of the armpit. Other direction. Good. Okay, looking forward. Again, feeling that crown point, rubbing it every day is going to help. And I'm going to exercise my neck. I'm going to turn to the left, and I'm going to turn to the right, like turning on that axis. Turning on that axis. That axis, remember, goes straight down to your perineum, right where the legs meet. So dealing with the inertia, dealing with turning and balance, it's all about rotating on that axis. It's about rotating from the center. Okay, we're going to sink down into the waist. Remember having that big dinner. And I'm going to turn, rotating on these points. That's your hip joints, right in the center of that fold. Your femoral artery is there, your lymph nodes are there. So exercising this exercises all of that. But it's also transferring the weight here so it can move through the leg. Now if these are tight, it's very hard for the weight to go down. It's getting stuck. You feel tight hips. Practice just a few minutes every day. You know, whenever you can think about it. You're waiting for the noodles to cook. You're waiting for something to come on television or whatever. You got an extra 60 seconds, 90 seconds. Exercise this area. So important for our health. Despite balance. Okay? All right, now the knees. The way that we exercise the knees is you just sit your butt in a chair and then you stand up. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to push the knees forward. We want to have the knees hinge like this. So like I'm sitting in a bar stool, okay, and then I'm standing up. Now when you sit, try to, and again, it's just a workshop and you have to go home and fiddle with this a little bit, but try to sit from here. See, and then try to stand from there. Try to sit from here, stand from here. Okay, and then the back of the knees, same time. They'll work together. The center of this and the center of this work together. The body's smart. It's placing all the lymph and everything in the same area so that when you move, it's getting all the work done at the same time. Okay, and that's actually the best way to exercise your knees, is to actually not do anything with your knees, because the knees, just a little empty space in between a bunch of bones. It's better to strengthen the meat and tendons along the back of the leg that support the knees. This meat is going to support this and this, and when these are strong and connected through the hamstring tendons, then the front of the knee can relax. There's no strain, and then more balance as well. Do the very best you can here. We're just going to relax through the center of the ankle. So you're just kind of moving to relax. You're moving to feel the center of your body. Other direction. Okay, and we'll switch. Just feel your ankle. Relax. Let the nerves come alive. Other direction. Good. Okay. All right, and then we're going to hold a big ball in front of our bodies. And I'm going to turn on the axis. Where's that axis? It should feel very, very easy to turn. Very easy to turn. Okay, and then the other side, turning on the axis. If I start to swivel off the axis, I'm going to get dizzy. I'm going to be imbalanced. I believe just about anybody would. Fluid starts swirling around and things start tensing up. So when you turn off the axis, it should be very easy to turn and you should not feel disorientated or imbalanced at all. Okay, I'm going to do one more. I'll stretch the arms. Turn on the axis. One hand to the forehead, one to the lower back. Turn on the axis. Turn on the axis. That line of gravity is your axis. Let's just shake it out. Shake through the fingers to the arms, to the armpits, and from the top of the head down to the feet. Look for a light little spring through the body, and when you feel that light spring, you're pretty close to having all the bones lined up. Because when the bones line up with the ligaments and the synovial fluid, it acts like a shock absorber. So that's the purpose of the shaking, is to kind of settle into that so you feel springy, ready. Ready, always ready. Good. Okay. All right, now we understand this axis running through the head. When we want to go from point A to point B, we have to transfer that axis from one leg to the next, and that's how the body moves through time and space. This area from the crown to the perineum, that's what most people do when we meditate. Regardless of the type of meditation, you sit on that pillow, until you stop sitting like this and everything starts to equalize, normalize, be more balanced. Okay? And then when you're done, you get off the pillow and you go through daily life. In Tai Chi, we want to keep that same feeling of sitting on the pillow and meditating, being centered, but now I want to move around life without having stress, being stressed. So I'm going to transfer that line through the hip, center of the hip, center of the knee, down to the center of the foot, and then from the center of the hip, center of the knee, down the center of the foot. It's just going to go from where the legs meet up to the hip here. Okay, so we're just shifting. We're shifting because that's the precursor to walking. If I want to walk comfortably, I transfer the weight to one foot, I step, transfer the weight to the other foot and step, and so on and so forth. But before learning to walk, in Tai Chi, just learn to shift. And again, you don't have to have a regimented workout for this. Just waiting for something to come out of the oven. You're always benefiting your body. It's not wasted exercise. I've done a lot of exercises in my life that I feel I wasted my time with. I injured myself. I didn't get healthier. There was really no benefit to it. Every second I invest, I get something back. And every student I have that does the work can say the same. Yeah, so as long as you practice, you find a few minutes here and there where you can just feel that weight coming down the hip, center of the knee, center of the foot, center of the hip, center of the knee, center of the foot. And now let's talk about some little common errors that we come across. Okay, that would be that the knee bends in. And you can see here, so you want the weight to fall. So if my knee is bent in, see the weight's just going to get stuck there, like a buckle in the stud. And we don't buy studs and put them in the wall, if they look like this, because eventually the weight is just going to snap it. Yeah. So same here, we want that knee right over the foot, because what you're doing is you're transferring the weight from your pelvis through the hip joint into the thigh bone. Okay, now we need to transfer the weight from the thigh bone to the shin and calf bones through the back of the knee. So we're looking for that transfer. And again, if the knee's on the inside or it's too far on the outside, too far over the toes or locked, the pressure is just going to get stuck there. See, again, it's impossible for all of that weight to get to my foot. But if I just adjust a little bit, now it can go through. Okay. All right, and you can do this again. A few minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, as long as you want. We'll put the left foot forward, and we're going to go front and back, front leg, rear leg, and you're just feeling. You're feeling. Now, don't try not to rush through. Feel that line transfer from your body through this hip, through the knee, and into the foot. So it feels like you can push the floorboard, like squeak the floorboard. Then transfer that same line now through this hip, through the back of that knee, into the foot. Feel like you can squeak the floorboard. And then bring it back. Squeak the floorboard. And bring it back. Now a lot of this is just getting that center of gravity to drop, so it's not up here. You start thinking lower, start moving lower. Then when you slip and you do this, it's like you're always doing that. So you don't have to worry about falling. You're already prepared for it. We'll switch sides. Same thing. Okay, and I'm just going to go into a little detail here when we do this. In my expressed opinion, there really is no such thing as left and right and front and back, etc., etc. When it comes to real life and falls and, you know, hitting the floor and stuff, there's really just that. That's what you're contending with when dealing with gravity. This, every single time, every single time. So we're going to look at that line in my body, okay, and I'm on my back leg. When I go forward, I'm sinking down in the front leg. See, still have that line. And then I sink that line down the back leg. And I sink that line down the front leg. What I want to try to avoid is this. Tilt the line. Tilt the line. See, tilting the line is going to cause, you're already falling. The second that line tilts, technically you're already falling, you just haven't fell yet. Because you're using a lot of tension to avoid you falling. You stand up straight, you can relax because there's no falling. You lean back, you're falling again. So you don't want to lean back. You want to try to stand up tall and just keep carrying that line from one foot to the next. Now the good news is, I mean, you don't have to do this the rest of your life. You spend a few weeks, few months tops just focusing on these lines when you go for a walk, when you're walking around the house. Excellent. Okay. So you want to move the center to move the periphery. You want to move your center to move your mass. Move the center to move the mass. This is different. Do this with me. Move the mass. Feel, I don't know how much you weigh. I'm not going to ask. Just tell yourself, I weigh 220. Move and feel 220 pounds. Move and feel 220 pounds. Okay, that's moving the mass. Now I'm going to relax into my center, and I'm going to move my center. And it sure don't feel like 220 pounds. It feels like a lot less. It's easy to move things when they're balanced. Okay, I'm going to grab a ball real quick. I'll show you this. Okay. So moving the mass of something from side to side. If you really look down into it, it's very imbalanced. It's very hard to keep that axis. It's very hard to keep it from wobbling and shaking, and it's hard to keep it from not being level. If I just change my thinking and I go to the axis still moves the mass. And not only does it make it more balanced and easier to move, but it just seems so effortless. See, it just seems, I'm moving the same object, but I'm moving it from its center rather than moving it from its periphery, from its mass. So in our bodies, we don't want to move the mass. We want to keep relaxing and softening until we can feel through the center. Just move your center. Okay. All right, we're going to do one more exercise. We'll take a short break and then we'll work on the turning. So walking. First thing you want to do is put weight on one leg so that your other leg can reach out and step. When you put the weight on that leg, be careful it doesn't spill out to the side, but that you're putting it right down the middle. Once it's right down the middle, step. Now transfer this line through this leg. Make sure you're stable. Don't step until you're stable. Be honest with yourself. Step. Now transfer that line to the right hip, right back of the knee, right foot. Be honest with yourself. Make sure you're stable and balanced. Then step. Okay, and then transfer it to the other line. Once that line is stable there, step, transfer it to the other line. Okay, one more time, step, transfer it to the other line. I'm taking that axis, transferring it here. Now once this is stable, and that line is, that stud through the wall is carrying all the stress down, this one's free to step. Now I need to transfer the line here, so this one becomes free to step. And then I transfer the line here, so this one becomes free to step, so on and so forth. When you first learn something, it's never really smooth. But if you practice a few minutes a day, just look for little opportunities here and there. Let's go for a hike or walk today. But you know what? Let's not do 10 miles. Let's do half mile and really slow it down, pay attention to how we're walking. Then in a month, that 10-mile hike will be a breeze because you've slowed it down and now you're walking 10 miles and you're comfortable. You're centered, you're moving that weight well. As opposed to just kind of moving the weight around and having it fall over. It's pinching this nerve and pulling that tendon and pinching this and that. Just standing up tall, stand up confident, let all the weight drop, have that big meal, let it drop, and then just transfer your line from one foot to the next. Transfer your line from one foot to the next. Okay, any questions so far? Take any questions. Very simple, very effective. It just works. We use these same methods in martial arts. When we kick, we punch, we need balance. We need stability. I don't want to be defending my life and falling all over the place. So when I need to kick or I need to do something, it's right down that line.